This is a Grade 3 Mission 7 overview for Zearn Math. If you're using Eureka materials, it's the Module 7 overview. Title is Shape and Measurement. Central focus is shapes exploring area and perimeter. The progression of the mission starts with solving 1- and 2-step word problems using tape diagrams and/or number bonds. Tape diagrams, number bonds, both are graphic organizers. They're something that eventually needs to go away, but they're good for helping students organize their thinking initially. Moves into understanding of shapes, especially quadrilaterals, and I'll name the specific quadrilaterals that are within your standards on a slide upcoming. Students then reason about the relationship between shapes, so talking about the differences, the similarities. These are great activities. Then they move into finding perimeter of a variety of shapes. Some of the shapes are complex. And then they find area and perimeter and represent those on line plots. I believe this is supposed to say area, not R. So this is a great mission for the interchange of area and perimeter. Sometimes Zearn or Eureka separate those. I think it's good to look at them together so that students can compare and not, because of their concepts that they might get mixed up later. Even though they're both in separation, very easy to do unless the numbers are really complex. The concepts aren't that difficult to remember and retain, but students can get the two mixed up. And then ends with more complex word problems. Fluency practice or prerequisite skills. Working on multiplication facts is gonna help with this. You should be doing that ongoing anyway. A spiral fluency, continue to work on multiplication facts with particular focus on division facts. By now they probably have automaticity with multiplication, so you probably need to be working more on division. That could come into play with perimeter, specifically if they leave out some missing sides. And continue to practice addition and subtraction to 1,000 sparingly. The foundational goal for this mission, so the most important thing to focus on, area and perimeter. And a simple application as a means to reinforce the math operations. So just simple area and perimeter problems. Even if they include complex shapes, if kids don't get those, that's not that big of a deal. They just need to understand area and perimeter with simple shapes at this point. That's where all kids need to get to. And I believe all third graders can get there. What doesn't go away, just as a reminder, this is your last mission. You're probably running out of time, but still try to find time to work on the fluencies. Specifically yours, automaticity with multiplication facts through 10. And then more recently, you've worked on unit fractions and the part-whole relationship, building more complex fractions out of unit fractions on a number line. You need to continue to revisit those things from time to time. Again, on the what doesn't go away, you're talking about spending fluency time outside of the core fluency. It's not included in your core, so it's stuff using materials you'll have to bring in. But I recommend being intentional with this and focusing on these specific things. You can bring in an outside resource that probably spirals a lot of skills in, but it may not be as focused as you need it to be on these specific foundational skills. So this slide is just to remind you what I believe are the most important things for kids to work on. These are the math aspects of math that are essential and enduring, meaning they contribute to and really determine their success and or lack of success in future mathematics classes. Special notes for this mission: if you run out of time, which you likely are, you can focus on a couple of aspects using simple activities and not even have to do this mission in its entirety, not have to teach every complex lesson. I would still spiral the fluency into this time as much as you can, but you could do some like attributes of two-dimensional figures. You could just study the figures. I like the idea of having the figures on the wall, and I've listed the figures that are in your standards: rhombuses, rectangles, and squares, which all belong to the quadrilaterals. So kids need to understand why they're quadrilaterals, what is it like about them that makes them quadrilaterals, and that's the 4 sides. And then what are the differences that require us to have a specific name for each quadrilateral, even though they all belong to the same basic family of polynomials. So since students' long-term visual memory is much stronger, I think having pictures of these on the wall are excellent, and so that they're looking at them every day. Name them, let them see them, and then this should be an easy, quick a few quick, easy activities. Have them draw them. Bring in the art department. See if you can work with them to create an activity where they work with these shapes. Perimeter and area, you could just bring in some worksheets without having to develop the full lessons. Quickly introduce kids to the idea. What's the difference between perimeter and area? Conceptually, they're not high-level conceptual things that are difficult to understand. They're quite easy for students to grab onto. So you don't really need complex lessons for them to get there, but they do need a lot of practice and applying the skills. Plus, this is a great perimeter and area. I should have included area here too. These are great concepts for them to work on the multiplication facts that they've just learned. And if you bring in missing sides, they can work on the division facts too, specifically with rectangles and squares. Rhombuses would be a little trickier for them. I'm not sure if they introduced the formula for the area of a rhombus yet, but a little bit more abstract than rectangles and squares.